At the G20, world leaders have welcomed a trade truce between the United States and China. After a much-anticipated meeting on the sidelines of the summit, President Trump suggested negotiations are back on track. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Scott Morrison is on his way home after securing an unprecedented international agreement asking social media companies to combat violence online. Chief political reporter Kieran Gilbert filed this report from Osaka.
It's been a G20 summit dominated by the G2, China and the United States, and their trade war. After their negotiations collapsed in May and with tit-for-tat tariffs being imposed, for the second time, the two largest economies have reached a truce.
We had a great meeting, and we will be continuing to negotiate. And I promised that for at least the time being, we're not going to be lifting tariffs, and we're not doing that. We're going to work with China on where we left off to see if we can make a deal.
Donald Trump has already imposed tariffs on $250 billion worth of Chinese imports, with a threat to slap tariffs on imports worth $300 billion more. But with this short-term deal, the US has agreed to not impose any further tariffs in the short term, to allow trade negotiations to resume.
China and United States both benefit from cooperation and lose in a confrontation. Cooperation and dialogue are better than friction and confrontation.
The China-US truce has been welcomed by other world leaders, including Prime Minister Morrison.
I'm hopeful, based on what they've expressed after that meeting, that they can now take that forward. There's obviously a lot at stake. I'm pleased that that was acknowledged and understood by China and the United States. Not only I, but many, many others have been making exactly the same point in concert. And so I think people leave Osaka pleased that we're able to get to that point.
Some people are worried that the post-war free trading system is wobbling. So in this context, we must solidly establish the principle which will lead the world economy going forward. At this summit, free, fair, non-discriminatory and open market, level playing field.
Scott Morrison has had success in Osaka in securing G20 support for his push to have social media giants crack down on those that use their platforms for terrorist or violent content.
It sends a very clear message, I think, to those companies that have created what are remarkable technologies that are changing the world for the better. At the G20, we affirmed how important that was, and that we want to see all of that continue, and that we're for an open web, and we're for all of those things. But we cannot allow these new tools to become deadly in the hands as weapons of terrorists.
From Osaka, the Prime Minister flies back home to Australia in the first sitting week since his election triumph. Kieran Gilbert, Sky News, Osaka.